Welcome to Plants, People, Science. This is a podcast of the American Society for Horticulture Science, where we like to talk about all things horticulture.
I'm Samson Humphrey. I'm a PhD student researcher at the University of Tennessee, and I'm one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Kurt Rome, University Professor of Horticulture at the University of Arkansas. We'd like to welcome our audience today. Thank you for taking the time to join us. So, Samson, how's the new year starting for you?
Oh, it's been fantastic. Actually, today I was shocked to walk out my door, and here in Tennessee, it should be freezing right now, and it is very much not freezing. I don't think the temperature changed from the inside of my home to outside of my home when I stepped out that door. It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm ready for spring. The days are already longer, just by a few minutes. The sun angle's changing just by a little bit, but I have spring garden fever. I'm ready to be outside when I don't have to do my teaching and my research. I'm ready to start gardening, which I think is actually great because we're going to kind of have a gardening episode today. Well, to some extent, going to talk about flowers.
Absolutely. You got a lot of different things, Kurt. How early do you start with your gardening journey in the spring?
Well, a couple weeks ago, a local nursery knew I was looking for hydrangea, and our weather was mild enough, and they were trying to reduce their inventory. So part of my December-January transition was I planted 20 hydrangea in either 5 to 8 gallon pots. I had 20 of them. I had 4 different species and about 5 varieties in there. So I've done that. I have gotten my first load of compost that I put out in gardens, and this weekend I'll be starting to mulch. I'll put out a trailer load of mulch. So I'm ready for gardening. If the weather's good and the sun's shining, it's time to be outside.
You're right, but I'm actually blown away by how much you've done because you have a high teaching workload as well. And so it's good to see that you're already jumping on top of things.
Well, that's what weekends have been made for, and the weather has been good on weekends, so I'm fortunate for that. And maybe it's my nervous energy download. It's kind of that physical activity, that gardening, keeps me in touch with what I'm hopefully teaching, and kind of informs some of that. Nothing informs better than blisters. And then I can start the academic week with my teaching and my research with renewed vigor to be in the office.
That's a great point. Yeah, I'm excited for this weekend myself. I have my first blacksmithing class. And you may know this or you may not. The first exercises you often do in blacksmithing is making leaves out of metal. And so, Kurt, if you would like any metal leaves for any sort of purpose you could possibly imagine, let me know. Well,
it's not related to the podcast, but in my background, I also took a blacksmithing class, and at a interpretive camp in New Mexico, I actually taught blacksmithing for 2 summers. And so I have made those kind of things, and hooks and hinges and nails and knives and a whole range of tools and implements. Mm-hmm. So good luck. Blacksmithing is really fun.
Thank you. It's a big, exciting world out there. And yes, I do hope that it, like you said earlier, makes it easier when I go back, reinvigorates me to go teach plant physiology and do my other research.
Hammering hot red metal is a lot different than teaching plant physiology.
In a good way, I hope.
In a good way.
Fantastic. Well, you are about to grow your flowers. I'm about to hopefully make some flowers or something. And our guest today is related to that. Our guest is Alicain Carlson, head of technical services and cut flower technical expert at Syngenta Flowers. She did her master's and PhD at North Carolina State University under Dr. John Dole, who we've talked to on this podcast before. And while she was there, she studied cut flower post-harvest quality and longevity. And then she jumped into an industry career. So today's episode will be about her shift from academia to industry and the advice she has to offer. We're excited because this will be a good resource for our student listeners who might be curious about industry careers. So if you're ready, Kurt, let's give this episode a listen.
Let's get going. Let me add a quick footnote at this point. This podcast episode is recorded in winter, and we wanted our listeners to know that the California Spring Trials typically are held annually in late March or early April. This year they were held March 24th to the 27th, and they have shifted to a Tuesday through Friday format. Registration is required, and to register for future California Spring Trials so that you can visit and see what's happening on the horizon of floriculture, please go to the National Garden Bureau website. Good afternoon, Dr. Carlson, and welcome. But before we get into today's conversation and discussion, you and I have known each other a long time. We've worked together. But for our audience and for this conversation, do you prefer we call you Dr. Carlson, or would you like to be called Allison?
I am A-okay with Allison, and my name is spelt uniquely too, so I think it's good to help emphasize that it's Allison and not Alicain.
It is Allison, and it is a very interesting way to spell it, but maybe it matches the personality. So sometimes those cue. Well, give us a little bit of background. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then I want to kind of change into tell us how you became a horticulturist. But start off, tell us what you're doing right now.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So right now I am the head of marketing for the Americas region. So for North America, Central and South America, for Syngenta Flowers, which is a global flower breeding company that produces seeds and cuttings of new flower genetics that we breed in our organization. I have been a part of Syngenta Flowers for a little over 10 years now. I haven't always been in marketing. I started as a technical scientist based out at our Gilroy, California facility where our R&D breeding happens, where I did technical trialing that helped to basically scientific research trials that help to create and validate our marketing messaging, because we didn't want to just say, hey, we have a pretty new pink begonia. There's not a whole lot of substance behind that. We wanted to be able to say things like it has 20% larger flowers than the competition, or maybe a previous variety that we had. It flowers 2 weeks faster. It needs 30% less plant growth regulators. So, my job was to help make real substantial marketing messaging to promote our genetics and to help our grower customers. And now over the last 10 years, I have moved through the organization in various roles, from a technical scientist doing the trials to the technical trial manager and technical manager, which is responsible for managing the teams that then do those trials and the teams that support our customers all across the country that go to visit them. Our tech leads are kind of like the extension agents of the industry, where they go out and help our customers grow our genetics the best on everything from variety selection to what growth regulators to use, and even how to, adjusting temperatures, really anything. And then kind of that background led me into an opportunity to become our head of marketing, which at first, I don't know, if anyone would have asked me like during grad school, if I thought like, hey, Allison, like, do you think you'd ever be the head of marketing for a flower breeding company? I'd be like, what, are you crazy? Like, no. but it's actually been a really great role for me personally, and the experience that I had within Syngenta leading up to it, and also aligns with what our culture and our customer support, like within Syngenta Flowers, is. We really have a focus and keen interest in making sure that our marketing isn't just fluff, that our products aren't just me too things that somebody else has, but that we are innovative and we are sharing the science of our industry. Because horticulture is scientific. It's a science. That's why ASHS horticultural science, like, that's the thing.
That's what we hope. Well, here on our podcast, we call it Plants, People, and Science. So the plant part, is really exciting right now. We're moving towards spring and towards summer. We're getting close to the flower season. So, your expertise on this and what's happening at Syngenta and giving us a big national and global perspective is really good. But before we get to the science, let's talk about the people. So tell us about Allison. How did you become a horticulturist? What was your journey? How did you get from there to now? We understand how you've kind of risen up inside of the organization and in marketing, but how did you get to that point?
Yeah. So before I joined Syngenta, I guess I'll go chronologically, like back in time. The doctor part of Dr. Carlson came from my time at North Carolina State University. I did a master's and a PhD at NC State under Dr. John Dole, one of the premier horticulturists.
Great guy.
Yes, in our world, really, and studied cut flower production and post-harvest. So was really keen on, learning the science behind production, like even did some work in new variety evaluation and kind of like figuring out all of the nitty-gritty details about potential new cut flower introductions and like what growers would need to know. That was more in my master's. And then my PhD focused on more like molecular and microbiology concepts around base life in cut flowers. So did some RNA sequencing, quickly realized that, yes, that's very cool, but really not how I wanted to spend my life as a horticulturist. The microbiology part was very interesting. So that experience, led me to my job at Syngenta. But even before that, I didn't find horticulture until undergrad. I did my undergrad at Virginia Tech. I started as an undecided student because I thought I wanted to be an architect, because I loved like the art and the science behind like the mix of that there's like an art to the design, but then like the science of it being like structurally feasible.
Yeah, science and visualization. I get that.
Yeah. So like I love that, but then like didn't get into architecture programs. So the universe had other plans for me. And my sophomore year of undergrad, I decided to take an indoor plants class. So I was like, oh, this will be cool. I'll learn how to not kill my plants.
Right.
It'll be a fun thing to do as I try to, navigate my way through university. And I remember like being in, maybe it was like, I don't know, even just like the third or fourth class, like learning about, okay, this plant needs this light and this plant needs this to flower, and like this plant, like learning about all the unique things that like made that plant successful. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I like learning the scientific names, and I was like, wow, I think I'm a plant nerd.
It is cool. We're all plant nerds here. It's a safe space.
Yes. So I had found my people, and so I started exploring those options with like the great resources that were at Virginia Tech, and decided I declared a major in biological sciences. but then minored in horticulture. So I kind of like, they didn't, at that time when I was at Tech, they didn't have like a plant science program. So I kind of made my own, and it was wonderful. So I TA'd for floral design, and I worked in a aquatic ecotoxicology lab. So I got like that art experience with the floral design, but then like super sciencey stuff with that toxicology lab. And then that program helped me find my way to NC State. So yeah, that's how I found out that I was a plant nerd.
It's great that you got to work with John Dole. Actually, this time last year, we were interviewing him for our podcast, our kind of spring flower podcast about especially cut flowers. So,
awesome.
So you got off to graduate school and became a graduate student.
Yep, sure did, and went through those programs. And I mean, I really had a focus on getting a faculty position. I mean, that was one of my main drivers for pursuing a PhD. I mean, I loved the science and the studying and like getting into the nitty gritty. And that's very much like part of my personality. And I really loved teaching. Still very much love teaching. I'm a teacher at heart. And so was focused on looking for faculty positions. And also I didn't really know what was out there in industry for someone like me or what that was like. Didn't quite have a ton of exposure to that. But I don't know, through my application processes for faculty positions, I had someone at Syngenta Flowers reach out to me like via the grapevine. So y'all, it's a small world in horticulture. Like word gets around when people are like open to work and things are working. So build your network. Okay. Put yourself out there. One of the things that got me exposed to my future employer was presenting at ASHS conferences. So I know that can be like nerve-wracking to do those oral presentations and stuff, and to put yourself out there, but you never know what opportunity it's going to open up for you. But kind of getting back to my journey, I was applying for faculty positions, but got an email from my future manager at Syngenta Flowers saying, hey, we have this position open at Syngenta Flowers. I've heard that you're looking for faculty positions, but would you consider this role at Syngenta? And I was like, okay, well, yeah, like tell me more about it. And I know, kind of long story short, after an amazing interview, I decided, wow, this feels really good at Syngenta, and I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to change my direction. And I kind of like took the leap into industry. And it's been wonderful. So glad I didn't keep those blinders on and was open to other opportunities.
That is phenomenal. That story is so interesting too, because I feel like the students I know are kind of all along, they're kind of considering their options. They're always like, oh, what if I could do industry, but still often working toward academia. You had many different experiences when you were in undergrad and in graduate school. How did those experiences lead to skill sets that are helping you now in your not in academia, in your Syngenta career?
Yeah, as a grad student, I liked to be involved in the other like student organizations. So like we had a really active chapter of Pi Alpha Xi at NC State, and I was an officer in there and helped to lead that and the activities there, which taught me a lot about leadership, leading people, also managing budgets. I was also involved in our Grad Student Association chapter, our HSGSA, and the president of that for several years, and things like that. I mean, I definitely learned a lot in the labs and in classes and like got that scientific process, but the other activities I did taught me more about like working with people, managing money, managing projects, and uh, kind of those other skill sets that ended up really translating into kind of a general like industry career. In Pile Fazai, we set up the plant sale. Now I'm responsible for our event at CAST, at California Spring Trials, which is like our biggest plant sale like of the year. So, it's means smaller scale in grad school, but you just scale up the experience. And I know sometimes Dr. Dole would, I'm sure he's probably going to listen to this. I know he'd get a little bit frustrated with me that I was involved in all these other things too. He's like, really, you have time for this? But it really helped me become a better leader and like people manager. And it also helped me have perspective for refocusing on other things that maybe when my RNA extraction wasn't happening very well for like the 50th time, like I had something else that I could like break my focus and like maintain my like mental health a little better too. So it was a nice balance of activities. That helped keep me as stable as a graduate student can.
So student organizations, getting involved also at the sort of decision-making level of those student organizations. Does anything else come to mind?
Also teaching, like taking the opportunities to being a teaching assistant, was great, not only for if you go into an academic career, but also I pull on those experiences now for how I communicate and explain things to growers in presentations, or how we build the information that we write, our internal reports. Just how in general I operate in explaining things to the 15 people that I have now reporting to me. Like I'm a teacher every day. So like those concepts that you learn of what makes you a good teacher is really just what makes you a good communicator. And communication is so important regardless of where your career is. So, yeah.
Well, you've also been really involved in kind of sharing some of that advice with our younger members at ASHS at our career events, our career development events. You seem, even though now you're working in a commercial industry, you still have a little bit of that passion for teaching and sharing with young people. And I think you're involved in American Hort and their Scholars Program. What kind of things, really besides teaching and those, let me get to it. What about networking? Coming to these meetings and the opportunity for networking. When I look at my students, they think networking means liking something on an app. Maybe you've got a different viewpoint on that.
Yeah, yes, networking is extremely important because people are what help make connections or what help make connections. So, I feel like a lot of us maybe get into horticulture because it's like, oh, the plants don't talk back, or, it's like something about being antisocial kind of, but, and being more like introverted, but really you've got to connect to people because that's where your next like great opportunity is, or where your next great idea is, or someone who shares your same nerdy tendency for something. Like we need that people connection. So I mean, for me, as a grad student being involved in those organizations, and even within the university, but also taking opportunities to connect with others outside of my university, by going to ASHS conferences or going to industry events and just broadening your network to meet other people. Like you get new ideas, new perspectives, and like different opportunities come your way. And I keep that philosophy even now, like in my career in Syngenta, like I network within Syngenta. I mean, we're a big organization, so it's great to like, meet a few new people every year, even within Syngenta, and make sure that, I know who's who in Syngenta, but making sure I keep those connections outside of the organization too for extra leadership opportunities or learning opportunities. You just never know what you're going to learn from somebody else. So like right now, I mean, Kurt, like you said, I am involved in ASHS as, teaching things at like conferences and stuff whenever I can. I'm the industry division vice president right now. But I'm also engaged in the National Garden Bureau, which is an organization that connects home gardeners with trusted gardening information and horticultural information. So it connects home gardeners with industry experts about our industry. But then also organizations like the American Floral Endowment. I'm on their board, connected with the Association of Specialty Cut Flower Growers. I know it's just opportunities to learn and teach and influence and just be engaged with more than just what's going on in our little bubble. You see more perspective and get broader learnings.
And I think that's a really good point. I teach a career and professional development class this semester, every spring semester. And when we talk about looking for jobs, the evidence is across disciplines, not just for horticulture, that the highest success rate and the highest achievement rate and more likely to succeed and enjoy your job comes from a job where you were recommended by your peers and your network relative to finding an advertisement online or something, So somebody's already kind of done some matching. They've thought about it. So who and making those network connections really leads to higher job success and better job satisfaction.
Right. Because when someone knows you and they hear about a job, they're like, oh, so-and-so would be really good at that. Like, it not only helps you get connected to a job where people see you have a strength in it or a passion in it, but also it helps the employer have a lot more confidence in saying, I'm going to hire you, because hiring people is very risky for organizations. Like if that person doesn't work out. So there's a lot of risk. So having references, like trusted references, and multiples of them is a higher likelihood that you're actually going to get that job, because we're kind of getting extra confidence in, oh yeah, they're interested in it. They can do it. Oh, you've had good experience. You would recommend them? Great. Yes.
Well, that's one of the things I've said that at ASHS meetings and our professional development seminars, and it's my first lecture next week. A hiring decision is $1 million decision for an organization. That's what the investment is. If they hire you at $50,000 for 20 years, it's $1 million. If they hire you at $100,000 for 10 years, it's $1 million. And the students, they always look at me like, really? I thought it was like only a $45,000 decision.
No.
And so it's a big decision for organizations, whether it be a university or a company. It's something, when I hire people, I don't take it very lightly. I look at what the totality of the investment would be.
Absolutely. So like having a pre-built-in reputation, a good one is helpful. So, and there's lots of ways to do that. So.
Yeah, but when we're talking about networking, I think about all of these students, undergrads and graduate students that I've met at these conferences and that are at my university. And I like remember what it's like to be starting out, and it can be daunting to maybe hear your advice that you have to maintain all these connections and be part of all these organizations and maintain a network. So how would you what would you recommend to students who want to maintain a network? You know, they've gone to a conference or something, but they don't quite know what to do.
Yeah. And, I mean, I rattled off all those things that I'm involved in, but I mean, I've been in my professional career for 10 years now, and that's those types of things, being involved in that level and those types of things is something that is like personally like near and dear to my heart and part of who I want to be as a professional in the industry. So, that networking journey is going to look different for everybody. So yeah, if that was daunting to hear like the 5 organizations that I rattled off, I totally understand. I do that to my colleagues too. They're like, how do you have time for all this? I frankly don't know, but somehow I do it. But it's going to be different for everybody. So, I mean, I think as a student, just making sure that that your major professor understands that this isn't something that you're interested in pursuing, and you want to like go to an ASHS conference in order to network with other academics and industry professionals, and that you want to present and put yourself out there. And if there are local events where you can get involved and like give talks, like it's also sometimes students are like, well, I've got to travel across the country 30 days, 30 weeks of the year in order to build my network. No, start small, start local, like be engaged in grower meetings, anything that comes through your university, virtual options, and just maybe plan to do 1 or 2 new things each semester that just help you meet a new person, or engage with a new group in a different way. And then, just send a follow-up email to someone new that you meet and say, hey, thanks for taking the time to have that conversation with me. I learned a lot about, blah, blah, blah. Can I reach out to you again in the future if I have any questions on blah, blah, blah? And people are like, yeah, great. Sure. Yeah. Anytime. But then just, I don't know, like keep those people in mind. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to plan a phone call with every single person that you meet at a conference on a monthly basis in like order to maintain a relationship. Like, that's not what this is about. You're not going to start dating them. Like, it's just you've made a professional connection, and, have the follow-up, leave a good impression. And then, if they come to mind in the future, reach out, connect. LinkedIn has become a phenomenal resource for building your like professional network. If I meet someone in person, I generally try to find them on LinkedIn to like have that kind of follow up afterwards, and see, what they're posting and what they're doing, comment at like, hey, that's super cool. Or like, I'm glad you got that opportunity. But then also post what you're doing to kind of keep people up to date on the opportunities that you're getting, and like recognition in milestones that you're accomplishing in your career, to help people like cheer you on and like, be invested in your development. And especially as a grad student, I feel like it's a great time to start, because people like to cheer on and support people who are building their careers and like coming up in the industry. Like it's everyone likes to support that.
Well, that's a really nice thing about horticulture is we are, I think, overall very mutually supportive, and we enjoy seeing success of our peers. I want to transition back to the plants piece. A little while ago, you said something that caught my attention, and I just wrote a note to myself. It was about the California spring trials. Give me the rundown on that. I am a horticulturist. I've kind of heard about these. I work in more the fruit world. Tell me about the California spring trials. Tell us what we need to know.
Yes. So the California Spring Trials is kind of like Fashion Week for flowers. And
Woo-hoo!
yeah, because colors, trends, all that, what's new. And we get to show off our, latest and greatest innovations in the breeding world. So it happens every like late March, early April, kind of depending on how like Easter falls in the time period. And all the flower breeding companies set up sites along the California coast from north where we are in Gilroy, like the San Jose area, down to Southern California. And we host ours at our breeding site that's in California. A lot of flower breeding companies have breeding sites in California, but the ones that don't set up a show along the travel course there. And it's a week-long show where we open our doors to the industry for free. You got to register, but it doesn't cost anything. You just got to get yourself to California and up and down the coast for 4 days. And you come into our site, and we set up our greenhouse with all of our new varieties. We show like different retail inspiration. We have technical displays that share like some of the trialing that we're doing and the science that we're learning behind it. And yeah, like it's our opportunity to host the broker representatives that go out and sell genetics to growers, and have growers come and see everything, like tag companies, the in students. I'd really like to have more students and faculty like bring student groups out to CAST to see what's going on and like meet all the different people that are involved in having careers in breeding companies. So we hosted an NC State group last year that Dr. Knuth brought out. That was really phenomenal to have that group. And we took them through our display, talked about our genetics, but also talked about careers in floriculture. And so it was nice to kind of have them in our house to like show, hey, this is who we are. So then all the breeding companies, they set up displays with their new varieties, and it's a big show. We have lunch every day. So yeah, it's a really fun event for learning and education and networking and seeing cool new plants.
That is so exciting. Oh my goodness. I have never been. I have heard about it like in the ether. So it really helps to have your description of it and to know that students are invited to come. How would you recommend, if I'm a grad student and I'm interested, but my PI might not be going, how would you recommend students get involved or visit?
I mean, really, it's just a matter of coordinating your travel to get to the sites. The National Garden Bureau has a great website. It's caspringtrials.us, I think. But if you just search California Spring Trials, it comes up. That takes you through like a sample travel schedule. So you just got to plan your travel out there and like make it to the sites, and you register via NGB to like, hey, I'm going to be at Syngenta on this day, and then I'm going to go to Danziger, and then I'm going to go to Ball and Duman, and like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of breeders that participate in this. So really, it's just an individual planning experience. Maybe find some other grad students that might want to attend. Maybe that's something like ASHS could help like coordinate connecting students that want to travel together. I don't know, just thinking out loud. But I think I would connect with, find a couple people to travel with and make it fun, but you just got to get yourself out there.
I'm looking at the site. Thank you for mentioning that. You got the link exactly correct. And I didn't realize there was so much, I guess, scaffolding to help students and people who haven't been before know what to expect and know how to plan. This is fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. We actually just started that NGB, kind of being the overall organization that helps manage CAST on behalf of the breeders. We started it last year. And I'm currently the president of NGB. So that was kind of a passion project of mine to get more overall organization of that event for the industry, because it is so pivotal to like the launch of our new varieties and like education and networking. So we're trying to get more people out back to the event. Prior to COVID, we had much higher attendance numbers, and especially from like, there were definitely more student organizations like academics that would come out. And then post COVID, that return hasn't quite come back. So we're putting in a lot more general effort as NGB to promote CAST as an event to everybody, to remind people, hey, this is still going on, and there's tons of value for all different facets of people who are involved in horticulture.
So if a university comes out there, a faculty member, and we stop by Syngenta, how does Syngenta like to engage with universities after that? Trial gardens, collaborating with their research laboratories? How does Syngenta, from the garden show, kind of forge collaborations with universities? Or what kind of collaborations does Syngenta enjoy with universities?
Yeah, so we interact with universities in a few different ways. There's several that we have kind of long-term collaborations with to provide like third-party validation for some of the like disease resistance messaging that we have. So, we have our internal teams. Like I used to be like doing our internal R&D research to have a lot of confidence in the genetic that we're putting out there. But sometimes with things like disease resistance, we like to use a third-party university to do the disease resistance testing, to give us that extra like stamp of approval that we have disease resistance in our genetics. So, we work with Clemson and Cornell to do some of that for our genetics. We also, work with universities to send them product for their greenhouse management courses, or like their floriculture production courses. So that way, they don't have to spend money on buying plant inputs for that coursework, and they can focus on teaching students how to grow plants properly. So we like to engage with them just in that way too, providing free of charge plant material to support their programs. We also work with several academic programs to give kind of advice and direction and provide plant material for research projects. So, if a professor reaches out that, hey, I'm interested in doing ABC type of research, we'll give our feedback and, just help provide some additional expertise and collaboration and plant material. And
I think those public-private partnerships are so mutualistically beneficial, and they strengthen both sides. So, thanks for working with universities like that. Thanks to Syngenta. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great.
That is so cool. I didn't realize there was that extent of collaboration, and that Syngenta is so willing. That's really exciting. I have just one last question. It's sort of a big picture question. You have had a very colorful career. You have done some amazing and exciting things during grad school and since grad school for several years now. What would you like students to keep in mind as they're looking into the horizon and not sure of what their careers hold?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the biggest thing is just to like keep your options open. Like it's good to have plans, and it's good to set a direction, because it helps you, kind of move through the short term, and like you have to have a goal that you're shooting for, but don't have blinders on to other opportunities, because life isn't a straight path, and like you're personally or professionally. But, speaking professionally here, it's, I think we get programmed as children and young adults that like, okay, you go through school, you do kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. Like it's very linear up until we get to this like grad school point and then like this career where it's like, wait, what grade am I going into? Like it's not like that anymore. So like you have to kind of rethink life from being linear and like your plans and your pathway from being linear to being way more curved, spiraled, maybe circling back a little bit. I don't know, going in different directions and just kind of let go of some of the anxiety of that. And like, you can't plan everything. And I say this as very much a type A planner, Capricorn, all the way. Like I try to, if I can't plan it, like it gives me anxiety. So I've told myself this a lot. But if you try to over plan everything and just try to make it be what you want, you miss out on so many other things that could be really cool that you didn't consider. And for me, like, I think about this opportunity to be the head of marketing. Like, no, I wouldn't have planned to do that or like even considered that would be an option for me as a PhD horticultural scientist. But it's been an amazing growth opportunity and like learning for me to be able to apply my scientific mindset to marketing and to pricing and our product management and just like a breeding organization in general. So, and if I would have just followed that plan that I had set, I would have missed out on all of it. So just keep an open mind, keep meeting new people, and just don't be afraid to be uncomfortable.
And to get your work done.
Yeah. Yes. Focused, but not like totally distracted. Yeah.
That was my advisor mind speaking there. Well, Allison, this has been a tremendously enjoyable conversation today. Thank you so much. I mean, we covered a lot of ground. Appreciate all the advice that you've given to students in early career. Thank you for your leadership today, SHS. You've been an active member, but also you've committed your volunteer time to our organization and obviously other important horticulture organizations in the United States. We really appreciate that. But this was delightful. Thank you so much for coming today. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, same here. And I appreciate the opportunity to do this and kind of share some of the things that I wish I would have heard when I was earlier in my career. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to do that now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a good rest of your spring and good luck at the California Spring Trials.
Yes, thank you. I hope to see some of these listeners there.
Okay.
Wow, that was a fantastic episode. I really loved hearing from her. It's so cool. I feel like it never gets old for me hearing how the varied experiences that someone has in grad school or maybe in their early years getting into horticulture, how all those like weird different experiences and interests lead into a fulfilling career. I love hearing about that stuff.
Yeah, I really liked, Allison had some really good insights. The idea that I know that we as major professors, I'm speaking from experience, we like to keep our students really focused, keep them in the lab, but it's probably to young people's advantage as a student in an early career to look at those other opportunities to be involved in student organizations, both within the program and maybe across campus, clearly to become involved in the career field itself and to make those networking connections. I also really like the one observation that she said that, not all career paths are straight. They do, they can be stair-stepped, they can take interesting turns, they can circle back. And her advice that it's important probably to all of us just to keep our options open. And, she's kind of living testimony to that. The way she was involved as a student, the way she started to participate in meetings and present herself. And then when she got that call from Syngenta and said, we know that you wanted to be an academic, but would you consider? And all of a sudden that door opened for her. And, look at what that's happened in her career after that. Those many doors opened. Mm-hmm. I also loved hearing about the spring trials. I've never been. I'd like to. I'm looking at my calendar already. I know the dates are March 24th to the 27th of 2026. I'm going to have to look into that.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so cool to hear as well that you meet other academics and you meet other people. You're not just visiting and seeing flowers, but it really is an opportunity to get to talk with people and to talk about collaborations. Hearing about how she branched out in different ways really makes me want to join things like the California Spring Trials, because in my current work, I don't have a huge reason, like a direct reason for my PhD to attend something like these trials, but just the knowledge that I would gain about what it looks like to do research and collaborations with industry and how these people talk to each other and what considerations they make. I feel like that would be really valuable in a way that I hadn't thought of before.
It is. It was a really fascinating and interesting, enjoyable conversation today. It's always good to talk with you, Samson. I appreciate that. I really enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Alicain Carlson today. So this is Kurt Rome and my co-host, Samson Humphrey. We want to thank all of you for joining our conversation.